The snowy night and that single dollar. In the far northern mountains, there was a valley so remote that even sunlight arrived more like pale fog than real warmth. People called it Black Hollow. Old stories said the stars hesitated to shine here at night, and the moon frequently hid behind clouds as though ashamed to be seen. High above the tree line, where forest gave way to nothing but rock, ice, and wind, stood a single tiny cabin. Inside lived Dara. No one knew Dara's exact age. Some guessed mid-40s, others closer to 60. His face was permanently weathered by sun, frost, and wood smoke. His beard and hair had long ago turned the same iron-gray white. His eyes were sharp, too sharp, like they could read thoughts you hadn't even admitted to yourself. He was not an ordinary mountain man. He was the last hunter in these parts who still used a traditional bow and handmade arrows instead of a rifle. The reason was simple. One cartridge cost more than a month's worth of food, and Dara never had savings. That night the snow was falling hard, almost horizontally. Wind screamed through cracks in the cabin walls. Inside the fireplace, only two small logs still glowed weakly, already dying. Dara reached under his old sheepskin coat and pulled out a small cloth pouch. Inside were exactly 3 things. Single worn $1 bill, given to him perhaps 10 years earlier by a lost tourist. He had never spent it. A tiny silver ring, the only thing his mother had pressed into his hand before she died. A folded piece of paper with some English writing on it. He had no idea what it said. He looked at the dollar bill for a long moment and muttered, "You haven't been useful for a long time, but just existing keeps my pride alive." Suddenly, there was a sound outside. Not a howl or a branch breaking, a soft, tired, deliberate knocking. Dara listened. This was no animal. Animals don't knock like that. This was a human hand, very weak. He stood, picked up his walking staff, which was really an old spear whose iron tip had broken off years ago, and opened the door. A white wall of snow and wind hit him. Right in front of the doorway stood a woman. She was completely wrapped in a black hooded cloak. Only her eyes were visible, and those eyes were so deep they seemed to contain the entire night. Her whole body trembled violently. No bag, no staff, no extra blanket, nothing to protect her from the storm. Dara asked, "Who are you?" The woman did not answer. Instead, she slowly extended one shaking hand. In her palm was a small cloth bundle. Dara stepped aside and motioned her inside. She entered very carefully, as though she did not quite believe any place could be safe. The moment the door closed behind her, Dara threw his last piece of wood onto the fire and said, "Sit close. You're freezing." She sat near the hearth, but kept her face hidden beneath the hood. Then she opened the small cloth. Inside was a little wooden box. When she lifted the lid, a faint golden gleam escaped. There were 3 items. An old gold coin, maybe 100 years old or more. A small sapphire ring. A folded piece of paper with a hand-drawn map. Dara studied the objects, then looked at her and asked, "What is all this? And why did you bring it here?" For the first time, the woman spoke. Her voice was very soft, almost fragile, but perfectly clear. "I came to ask you for one thing only." Dara raised an eyebrow. "Say it." She took a slow breath and said, "I need only $1. Silence. Dara stared at her for several heartbeats. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out the same faded $1 bill he had carried for a decade. He held it out to her. "Here." She took the note, looked at it for a second, then slipped it somewhere beneath her cloak. Next, she pushed the little wooden box toward him. Gold coin, sapphire ring, and map all together. "Take these," she said. Dara gave a short, dry laugh. "I gave you $1. You're giving me gold and a jewel? Is this a joke?" She lifted her head, just enough for the firelight to catch her eyes. There was something strange and bright in them now. "This is not a joke," she said quietly. "This is a deal. You gave me $1. In return, I'm giving you everything I still own. But there is one condition." Dara waited. "What condition?" She spoke very slowly. "You will take me out of this valley, as far as you can walk, as far as your legs will carry us. And when I tell you to stop, you stop. And whatever happens after that, you do not look back." Dara drew a long breath. Outside, the storm had grown even wilder. Branches cracked somewhere in the darkness. The fire was almost gone now. Only red embers remained. He looked straight into her shadowed face and asked, "What is your name?" She answered, "You cannot know my name yet. When the time is right, I will tell you." Dara nodded once. "Fine. We wait for morning. The storm has to die down first. Then we leave." She lowered her head again. After that, neither of them spoke. The night grew deeper. Snow kept falling, and inside Dara's chest a strange, quiet unease slowly expanded. He did not yet understand what bargain he had just made with a $1 bill. But he already knew one thing with certainty. His life would never be the same after this night. Sure enough not to interfere with her social invitations. Then the silk wrappers came out again. The rose-patterned cups came out again. And the rules changed. No more sitting in the parlor after supper with a book. No more time in her father's study. No more questions about the law books that had lined the top shelf. Most of those books disappeared the week after the funeral. Ellie saved 3. Blackstone's Commentaries, Kent's Commentaries, a thin, dog-eared volume of Montana territorial statutes. Every night, long after the house went quiet, she carried a candle stub up to the attic. Between old trunks and broken chairs she read. She read until the flame burned so low it scorched her fingers. She read until the words swam. She read until the coal inside her chest stopped feeling like pain and started feeling like purpose. She copied passages into a small notebook in a private code she had invented at 12. Every third letter backwards, vowels replaced by numbers. No one would ever read it. That wasn't the point. The point was to remember that there were words that could protect people, that there were laws that could punish people, that somewhere, maybe not here, maybe not today, someone could be forced to answer for what they did when no one was watching. She kept the notebook inside the torn lining of her father's old sheepskin coat. It still smelled faintly of tobacco, leather, and him. Every night, she touched the coat before she opened the book. It was the closest thing she had to a promise. Afternoon tea was served at 4 o'clock. Ida had made it a ritual. Lydia and Beatrice got shortbread, jam, little cakes. Ellie got tea. Ellie dear the tray. Ellie carried it in. Silver pot. Rose cup for Ida. Plain white cup for herself. Ida poured. 2 sugars for herself. A heaping spoonful of honey for Ellie. "Extra sweet today," she said, "for my sweet girl." Ellie took the cup. She smelled it before it reached her lips. Something faint, metallic, sharp, bitter almonds. Not the warm marzipan smell of Christmas baking. Something colder, something wrong. She raised her eyes. Ida was watching her, smiling. Ellie lowered the cup very slowly. "May I be excused, ma'am? I feel a headache coming." Ida's smile stayed exactly in place. "Of course, dear. Go lie down." Ellie carried the cup out of the parlor. In the kitchen, she poured the tea into the potted geranium on the windowsill. The leaves were already curling at the edges. By supper, the plant had wilted completely. By morning, it was brown and dead, stem collapsed in the soil. Ellie stood at the sink looking at the ruined leaves for a long time. Then she rinsed the cup, dried it, put it back on the shelf. That night, she didn't read. She sat on the edge of her narrow cot, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. For the first time in 3 years, she spoke aloud to the darkness. Quietly, firmly, "I'm not going to die here." The words hung in the cold attic air. The house creaked the way old houses do. Downstairs, the clock struck midnight.